Hello everyone, is Bringonthechaos Glizzy for another What If. What if Naruto is in the world of the Avatar? What will happen to our dear heroes? Do Naruto go for good, or evil? Before we start, can you like and subscribe for more What If? If you wanted to request a new series, please comment 3 hearts and say your fanfic that you wanted. It really helps. Thanks. Let's start. I own nothing. Long ago, the 4 nations once lived in harmony with each other: the air nomads, the earth kingdom, the northern and southern water tribes, and the fire nation. But all that changed 100 years ago, when the fire nation attacked, starting a war to conquer the other 3 nations. And no matter how hard the nations fought, they were slowly being pushed back by the Fire Nation and their army of firebenders. With their only hope being with the Avatar, only one who could master all 4 elements of water, earth, fire, and air. With the Avatar being the one who could help keep peace and balance between the nations. Only for the Avatar to one day vanish, never to be seen again, with everyone waiting for the day the Avatar would reincarnate into a new bender and help restore peace and order to the world. But the current Fire Lord at the time, Fire Lord Sozin, enacted a plan to wipe out the air nomads, knowing the next Avatar would be an airbender. Committing a total genocide on all the airbenders, ensuring none of them survived. When this happened, the Earth Kingdom and Water Tribes waited for the day the Avatar would be reborn again, only they never were. With no new Avatar, many began believing that the Avatar cycle had been destroyed and lost hope that someone would save them from the Fire Nation. All except a few, who held on to hope that the Avatar would return to bring balance to the world. 100 years have passed since then, with what was now being called the 100-Year War, continuing to rage on as the Fire Nation gained more control over the nations with each passing day. With only a few still managing to resist the Fire Nation's control, including the Earth capital of Ba Sing Se and the Northern Water Tribe. The Southern Water Tribe having since been attacked, with all the waterbenders having since been executed and the tribe having split apart into smaller villages. While unknown to the Fire Nation, one such village was home to the last 2 waterbenders in the Southern Water Tribe, along with their non-bender brother. These being the fraternal twin sisters, Katara and Korra, and their older brother Sokka. Given all the men in their village had gone off to help fight the Fire Nation, Sokka had taken it upon himself to protect the village as a warrior, like their father before him. Though, he also has a habit of rushing into situations without thinking, in his desire to prove himself as a warrior. Currently, the 3 siblings were out trekking through the snow, hunting for penguins and seals for food, for the village. Though as the trio began walking closer to the shore, they soon spotted something up ahead. "Hey, I think I see something," Korra said, pointing up ahead, where she saw something color standing out amongst the snow. "Tiger seal?" Sokka asked, while holding his spear up in case it was a tiger seal, only for Katara to shake her head. "No, it doesn't look like a tiger seal. I think it's a person. And they're not moving," said Katara, her eyes widening at realizing it was a person laying in the snow. Realizing her twin was right, Korra and Katara didn't think before rushing over to the person, to make sure they're alright. Ignoring Sokka's protests that they could be dangerous, only for the boy to groan, before running after his sisters. When the 3 reached the person, they saw it was a boy, who looked to be a year younger than Katara and Korra, wearing ragged clothes, with 3 unique whisker-like marks on his cheeks, and surprising bright, spiky blonde hair. A rare color to find anywhere in the world. "He's still alive," Katara said, relieved when she saw the boy wasn't dead, and was merely passed out. Come on, let's get him back to the village, said Korra, lifting the boy up and hooking one of her arms around his waist. How about let's not bring some stranger into our home? We don't know who he is or where he's from. He could be from the Fire Nation for all we know, Sokka said, not wanting to bring some unknown person into the village when he could be an enemy. We're not just going to leave him out here. You can either help us or get out of the way, Sokka, retorted Katara, refusing to leave an unconscious, and possibly injured, person out here where he could freeze to death or be found by any predators. Looking between his sisters in disbelief, Sokka groaned, knowing he won't be able to convince them to change their minds and leave the boy. Given whenever Katara and Korra put their minds to something, it's nearly impossible to change them. With it being definitely impossible, if they're both in agreement over something, which they usually always do. Fine, we'll bring him back, Sokka muttered, before going over and helping carry the boy, before the three began making their way back home. Time skip 2 days. It was 2 days after they brought the boy back to the village, that he finally woke up and found himself inside a tent. You're finally awake, Katara said, before entering the tent, having come by to check on him and was surprised to see him awake. Yeah, apparently. Where am I? The boy asked, while looking around his surroundings. You're in my family's village, in the Southern Water Tribe. I found you in the snow passed out, with my brother and sister, before we brought you back here to help you recover. Hang on, I'll go get them, said Katara, before running back outside to get Korra and Sokka, with the boy being unable to say anything as he watched her leave. Though not a moment later, she returned with who he guessed were her siblings. So, I guess introductions are in order. I'm Katara, this is my twin sister, Korra, and this is our older brother, Sokka, Katara introduced, with the boy nodding at the names. I'm Naruto. And thanks for helping me out there, said Naruto, thankful for their help. No problem. We're just glad that we found you when we did, Korra replied. What were you even doing out there? What are you even doing in the Southern Water Tribe? Questioned Sokka, still being suspicious of Naruto, before wincing when Korra elbowed him in the ribs. Sorry about Sokka. But given how we found you and your unique appearance, he's just wary of who you are and where you came from, said Katara, while smiling apologetically, with Naruto waving it off as he stood up. It's fine and I understand. As to answer your questions, I had been escaping from some Fire Nation ships, but ended up getting caught in a storm. When I came to, I saw I ended up in the South Pole, which I figured would be a good place to hide, since the Fire Nation doesn't really come here anymore. Unfortunately, I'm not exactly used to living in this kind of weather or knew my way around, so I mostly just wandered around. You found me after a few days of no food, no sleep, and the cold, said Naruto, with the three looking at him in shock at what he just said, while Sokka growing more suspicious upon learning that the Fire Nation was after him, meaning he must be some sort of criminal. Well, you look much better, so you better be on your way then, said Sokka, now wanting Naruto out of the village and far away from him, if he's being chased by the Fire Nation, not wanting firebenders to attack his home and family. Before wincing again, when Katara and Korra both smacked him upside the head and glared at their brother. Sokka. You can't be serious. He just woke up and needs time to properly recover, Katara said, with Korra nodding in agreement. Yeah, and if the Fire Nation is after him, we can't just throw him out on his own, like that. We can at least give him some help. said Korra, with Sokka opening his mouth to protest, before the 14's attention turned to the tent's entrance to see their grandmother, Kanna, who they affectionately called Gran. Children, enough with the bickering, Kanna said, her grandchildren calming down at her words, before the elderly woman turned to Naruto. Now then, Naruto was it. You may stay here for a week, in order to rest and recover from your ordeal, and so we may prepare a boat and supplies for you. As Sokka is correct, we can't risk the Fire Nation following you all the way here, Kanna said, while frowning at sending the whiskered blonde off on his own, but she also had to think of the good of the village, along with refusing to have Katara and Korra be discovered as waterbenders, not after what happened to all the Southern Tribe waterbenders. It's fine, I understand. You helped me, when you had no obligations to, and I want to thank all of you for that. But I don't want to bring any more trouble to you all, than I already have, just by being here, said Naruto, knowing anyone who was discovered to have helped him would immediately be targeted by the Fire Nation to get to him. Katara and Korra nodded reluctantly, still not feeling right about sending Naruto off on his own, while Sokka nodded in acceptance at knowing Naruto will be gone soon, and removing the danger of the Fire Nation coming here, as well. Gran, I'm gonna go fishing, Sokka said, wanting to get back to gathering food, since his last hunt had to be cut short when they found Naruto. Alright Sokka. But take Katara and Korra with you, the more the people, the more fish you'll be able to get, Kanna said, with Sokka pausing and slumped forward. Okay, they can come, muttered Sokka, reluctantly at bringing his sisters with him, not wanting to risk the chance of them bringing anyone else that they may find home, while the twins gave Sokka matching smirks, before looking at Naruto. Naruto, do you wanna come with us? Korra asked, with Naruto thinking it over for a few moments before nodding. Sure, replied Naruto, wanting to take the opportunity to repay them for helping him, for as long as he was here. Later. So Naruto, I wanted to ask, why exactly is the Fire Nation chasing you? Katara asked, as the four sat in the boat, with Sokka holding a spear and watching for any sign of movements in the water, though the question made him and Korra glance at Naruto, also wondering the same thing. None of them knowing why the Fire Nation would be after one kid, since he was too young to be a soldier, and if he's a bender, what made him so special that the Fire Nation was chasing him? Part of Katara and Korra idly wondering if Naruto was perhaps the Avatar, but dashed those thoughts, since the next Avatar would be a waterbender, once the cycle is restored, and Naruto didn't have the look of being from either the North or South Poles. So, they were confused as to why he was being chased. Hearing the question, Naruto sighed, having figured he'd be questioned on why he was running, but hoped it wouldn't be so soon. Though, he also figured that it'd be better to get it over with now, rather than later. Rather than answer the question, Naruto stood up and jumped off the boat, towards the water, much to the siblings' shock and horror. Knowing that jumping into the freezing water would be a death sentence unless you were a waterbender and could bend the water around you. Naruto. Katara and Korra shouted, about to use their waterbending to save him from falling in the water. Only for the siblings' eyes to widen in shock, as rather than fall into the water, Naruto was now standing right on top of it, as if it was solid ground. Katara, Korra, can either of you do that? Sokka asked, looking completely shocked at what he was seeing, with the fraternal twins shaking their heads, knowing for a fact that they couldn't walk on water unless they froze it. Naruto, are you a waterbender too? Katara asked, unable to think of anything else to explain what she's seeing, believing he must be a really advanced bender to walk on water. And can you teach us how to do that? Asked Korra, excited at the idea of walking on water. No, I'm not a waterbender, and I'm not sure if you'd be able to learn to do this, but maybe if you advance enough in your waterbending, you could try and replicate it. But as for how I'm doing this, it's thanks to my chakra and ninjutsu. Watch, said Naruto, while making a cross hand sign, before to the siblings' further shock, a second Naruto suddenly appeared in a puff of smoke. Get a hold of yourself, Sokka. You're starting to see things. Sokka muttered to himself, convinced that he had to be hallucinating, as while he can believe his sister's having water magic, he couldn't believe that he just saw a kid clone himself, while walking on water. Sokka, you're not seeing things, stated Katara, just as shocked as her brother. How? Why? What? Korra asked, unable to think of anything else to say in response to what she just saw, before taking a few moments to calm down. Is this why the Fire Nation is after you, because of these abilities you have? If so, how did they even learn about them? Questioned Korra, with Naruto dispelling his clone as he got back in the boat, sighing since he now had to tell them the full story. Yeah, it is why they're chasing me. As for how they know, I was found by the current Fire Lord, Ozai, and his wife, Ursa, after they were sent by the previous Fire Lord Azulan to look over their recently conquered territory. They found me as an infant and they took me in, though only at Ursa's insistence to not leave me all alone. This led me to being a servant of the Fire Lord's family since birth, but I was able to befriend their children Azula and Zuko, along with Azula's friends Mai and Ty Lee. Granted, it wasn't easy to become friends with Azula, since she was a typical stuck-up princess and enjoyed pushing around those she considered beneath her. But I was able to get through to her and we became great friends, and I always made sure to help her, whenever she needed it. Though Ozai did hate me for spending time with Azula, since it ruined his plans of molding her into being as cruel, heartless, and power-hungry as he is. Said Naruto, frowning at the last part, despising Ozai for everything he did just to gain more power, before shaking his head and continuing. Anyway, it was a couple years ago that my abilities were discovered by the Fire Lord, and I had to run away before they could capture me. Naruto said. I'm guessing he wanted to turn you into a soldier, said Katara, looking at him in sympathy, only for Naruto to look at her blankly. No. They would have cut me open to see what made me tick and how my powers worked, and if they could be replicated in their firebenders. And if that wasn't possible, then turn me into a breeding factory, to create a new generation of firebenders, ones that could do what I can. Naruto replied, with the siblings paling at hearing this, sickened at the first part, and horrified at the second, knowing firebenders alone were dangerous. But firebenders with the same powers as Naruto, no one would be able to stop them. It also made the siblings wary of Naruto, hearing he wasn't just from the Fire Nation, but was also close to the royal family as well. Though, they also couldn't help but emphasize with him, as while the Fire Nation was terrible, it had been Naruto's home his entire life and where he had friends. Only for him to be forced to leave it all behind, or else suffer something worse than death. Even Sokka felt bad for Naruto, though he didn't show it, for the sake of acting cool. So, does that mean you ended up charming the Fire Princess and her friends? Sokka asked casually, while secretly wanting to know if Naruto did and if he could give him any tips, with Naruto looking away with a blush on his face being enough of an answer for him. You did. Tell me how. Is there a secret? Did you buy them gifts? What about defending 'em, showing how strong you are? Asked Sokka, wanting to know how Naruto could charm 3 girls at once. Only to yelp when his sisters both smacked him on the head, seeing as his questioning was making Naruto uncomfortable. Seeing it was clear that Naruto had been seeing them or at least one of them, but with how he was acting, it's obvious things didn't end on a good note. Thankfully, they soon reached the fishing spot, with Sokka once again looking for fish to catch with his spear. While Korra and Katara waterbent some fish, smiling at catching some and practicing with their bending. Unfortunately, things took a bad turn when Sokka made them lose their concentration, leading to him and Katara getting into the usually bickering matches. With Korra, ironically enough, usually acting as the mediator between her siblings, despite being more hot-headed than the both of them. Though their bickering ended, when the sea current began picking up speed, sending the boat rushing through the water with Sokka trying to steer. With it eventually ending in the boat being crushed by 3 ice floes, leaving the 4 stranded on the ice, in the middle of the sea. You call that left? Katara questioned, with a hint of bitterness in her voice. You don't like my steering? Well, maybe you two should have waterbended us out of the ice. Retorted Sokka, while waving his arms around to imitate waterbending. Katara, Sokka couldn't have gotten control of the boat, with how fast the currents were. And Sokka, we can't waterbend unless we concentrate, which we couldn't do with what was happening. Korra said, only to be ignored as the two glared at each other. So it's my fault? Demanded Katara. I knew I should have left you both at home. Leave it to a girl to screw things up. Sokka shouted, with Korra now scowling as well, angry at that comment. Okay, that's uncalled for. And I can get us back. Said Naruto, but was ignored as well, as Katara began snapping at Sokka. With Katara subconscious waterbending as she threw her arms around, unaware of an iceberg breaking behind her, until it finally broke in half, getting everyone's attention. Though before anyone could say anything, another iceberg began rising out of the water, with an eerie blue glow shining from within, illuminating 2 figures. One being giant and the other being a person in the ice. There's someone inside the ice. Korra said, shocked at seeing someone frozen in the ice, taking a step forward only to gasp in shock before her eyes began glowing a bright white, while the iceberg began cracking, with a matching light bursting out from it and shooting up into the sky. When the light died down a little, Naruto, Katara, and Sokka were shocked to see that whoever was frozen in the ice was just a boy with arrow tattoos and wearing orange and tan-colored robes. While the other thing in the ice was a giant 6-legged bison, which also had blue arrow markings on its fur. Hesitantly, Naruto went over to the boy to see if he was still alive, only to sigh and shake his head. He's dead. Naruto said, with Sokka and Katara frowning as they bowed their heads in a moment of silence, while Korra's eyes returned to normal with tears now streaming down her face. Aang. Korra said, looking at the deceased boy, somehow knowing his name is Aang, with her siblings and Naruto looking at her in confusion. Korra, are you alright? Naruto asked, with Korra wiping her eyes, not knowing why she was crying. I'm not sure. Said Korra, before the 4 looked at the bison, seeing it was waking up and looked around. The bison soon looking at Aang's body and tried nudging him, hoping to wake him up. Only to soon realize, he was gone and wouldn't be waking up, the bison letting out a low mournful sound at losing his lifelong companion. The 4 looking at the bison sadly, seeing how saddened it was by the boy's death, with Naruto picking up Aang's body. Hey, We may not have known who he was, but he was obviously someone important to you. If you want, we can take him back to the Southern Water Tribe and give him a proper burial," said Naruto, with the bison looking at them for a few moments, before nodding, wanting his friend to be put to rest. Fire Nation ship. Meanwhile, several miles out at sea, a Fire Nation ship had spotted the light shooting up into the sky. With two young teens looking at the light, with one of them narrowing their eyes at it, knowing exactly what it meant. "The Avatar has returned," Zuko said, knowing he had finally found his target. "Yes, congratulations Suzu, your banishment may soon be coming to an end. Mine, however, is still far from being over," said Azula as she rolled her eyes, with Zuko looking at his sister for a moment before looking back at the light. There have been incoming reports of some ships that had been spotted nearby, seeming to be chasing someone. There's a chance he'll be here, as well, Zuko said, knowing it'd be possible for both their banishments to finally end, with Azula looking at the light with renewed interest. "Yes. We'll finally get to see Foxy again," cheered Ty Lee, while flipping over to the siblings, followed by Mai and Iroh, eager for the chance to see Naruto again, given how he was the only who was always able to know it was her, when she was with her sisters, and always saw her as just Ty Lee. "Oh joy, then we'll get to deal with both of you again. What fun." Mai deadpanned, though the corners of her lips twitched up slightly, as despite believing Naruto was annoying, he also knew when to respect her privacy, along with the tips he gave her in regard to getting better at using her throwing knives. "I must admit, it would be good to see young Naruto again. I just hope he remembered the lessons on how to perform a proper tea ceremony," Iroh said with a smile, having developed a soft spot for the whiskered blonde, since he reminded of both Zuko and his deceased son, Lu-ten. "Yes, everyone's just so eager to see him again," said Azula, while clenching her fists with wisps of blue flames escaping them. "The main goal is finding the Avatar. If he's here as well, then we'll worry about him," Zuko said, with Iroh patting his nephew on the shoulder. "It's all right nephew, you are under much pressure. It will be good for you to see a friendly face again, and hopefully sit down and relax with a nice cup of tea," said Iroh, knowing despite what happened, Zuko still considered Naruto a friend, the same for Azula, but they chose to hide it behind anger and betrayal. "Let's just get some rest, so we'll be prepared to find the Avatar," Azula said as she walked into the ship before anyone could respond. Soon reaching her quarters, Azula locked the door and sat down on her bed, opening a drawer on the nightstand, and pulled out something that she wished nothing more than to throw into the ocean. But at the same time, she couldn't bring herself to get rid of it, since it's all she had left of him. "I hate you. I hate you so much, I was banished for helping you. Now if I want to go home, I have to find you, when I never want to see you again," Azula said as she gazes at the necklace, with tears in her eyes. "And I hate that I still care about you," said Azula, while holding the necklace close to her chest. Chapter 2 Ligma. I own nothing. Soon after returning to the village and explaining what happened, they had begun digging a grave for the boy. Once it was done and Aang was given a proper burial, Naruto, Appa, Korra, Katara, Sokka, Kanna, and the rest of the Southern Water Tribe stood around the grave, with their heads bowed, while having solemn expressions on their faces. While none of them really knew who Aang was, it was still sad to see someone so young pass away, even more so, with how long he might have been frozen in the ice. With Korra being the saddest over Aang's death but didn't understand why or even how she knew his name. Just that it felt like she had lost part of herself, she never got to really know. After a few moments, everyone started leaving, knowing they still had to continue with the duties and responsibilities to the village. Later, Korra sat beside her polar bear dog, Naga, thankful that she's returned from her own hunt for food. Taking comfort in her animal companion's presence, with the two currently watching the children playing with Appa. All of them amazed at seeing such a large creature. He looks happier, said Naruto, while walking over and sitting beside Korra, with the girl looking at him for a moment, before looking back at the bison. Appa. And yeah, he does look happier, Korra said, as she saw that Appa was happy to entertain the children by letting them climb over him but could still feel the sadness over Aang's death. This made Naruto look at Korra, still confused as to how she knew both Aang's, and now Appa's, names. Along with being worried at how unusually solemn and sad she was over the former's death, which everyone was, but Korra seemed more so than everyone else. Korra, are you alright? Asked Naruto, with Korra sighing before smiling at Naga, when the polar bear dog nudged her face, also worried about her friend. I honestly don't know. Yes, what happened to Aang is sad, but for me, it's more than just that. It felt like I've always known him, my entire life, and to see him dead like that, it was really painful, said Korra as she continued petting Naga, while trying to understand why she was so devastated at Aang's death. Naruto put a hand on Korra's shoulder, unable to think of anything to say that'd make her feel better. With Korra nodding in thanks, not wanting to say anything else at the moment, and simply enjoy the momentary peace. With Katara and Sokka *. Meanwhile, back in the village, Katara and Sokka were explaining to Kanna the exact details of how they found Aang. With Kanna listening to all this with a solemn expression, knowing that Aang was an air nomad, given his attire, tattoos, and having a sky bison with him. The latter creatures having thought to be extinct, after the Fire Nation's attack on the air temples. Gran, something else happened. When Korra moved close to the ice, she kind of froze up when it started cracking. I even think her eyes started glowing, Katara said, having noticed how Korra's eyes glowed, but wasn't sure as to the reason for it. Yeah, all of our eyes were glowing, Katara. Our entire bodies were glowing from the freaky light, from the iceberg, stated Sokka, having not seen the glow and figured Korra just froze up at the sight of someone frozen in the ice. The light was blue, the light in Korra's eyes was white, Katara retorted, knowing what she saw and knew that Korra's eyes had been glowing. This made Kanna's eyes widen in surprise, before realizing what had happened and just who Aang was. He was the Avatar, the one who came before Korra, Kanna thought, realizing that Korra is the new Avatar from her reaction to Aang's death. Katara, Sokka. This wasn't just any boy you found in the ice. He was an airbender. And more than that, he was the Avatar, Kanna said, interrupting her grandchildren's bickering, as they looked at her in shock. The Avatar, said Katara, shocked and saddened that they had found the Avatar, only for him to be dead for who knows how long. Yes. And more than that, by Korra's reaction and the glow in her eyes, she is the new Avatar. And if that is true, then Korra must leave the Southern Water Tribe with Naruto. Both for her own safety, should the Fire Nation indeed discover Naruto's here and find out who she is, as well. But also, so Korra can fulfill her own destiny as the Avatar. Kana said, knowing that Korra had a far greater destiny than she originally believed. Katara and Sokka looked at the grandmother in shock, but also skepticism, from the latter. Since Sokka found it hard to believe that Korra could be the Avatar. Are you sure about that, Gran? This is Korra we're talking about. She doesn't really seem like some all-powerful Avatar or being able to bend anything, except water, said Sokka. Perhaps, but I doubt that all past avatars could simply bend all the elements, unless they tried to, or accidentally discovered them. And I know for certain that Korra is the Avatar, and not just from her reaction to Aang and his death, said Kana, confusing the two. How Gran? Katara asked. Your mother, Kya, we all believed that she would only give birth to one child, you, Katara. Instead, she had given birth to twins, something that none of us had expected, but merely believed that Korra was a blessing from the spirits. Kana revealed, further shocking the two, neither of them having been aware of this, since Sokka had been too young at the time to know that he should have only expected one sister, and instead got two. And now with everything that's happened, it means that Aang must have died around the same time Kya was pregnant, resulting in him being reincarnated into Korra, who was born as the next Avatar. Said Kana, fully believing Korra was indeed the Avatar, while Katara and Sokka were slowly starting to believe it as well. Their sister was the Avatar, and the one who would help stop the Fire Nation. With Naruto and Korra. Back with Naruto and Korra, the two had gotten up and began playing with the children, while tending to Appa, since he had been stuck in the ice for who knows how long. With Naruto being glad to see that Korra was smiling again, rather than looking solemn and brooding. Though the two soon stopped, when they saw Kana, Katara, and Sokka approaching them. Gran, Katara, Sokka, what's wrong? Korra asked, worried when she saw all three of them having serious expressions on their faces, something that was rather unusual. Nothing is wrong, Korra, but I need to tell you something important. The identity of the next Avatar, said Kana, shocking Korra, while the other villagers grew quiet at Kana's words, just as shocked and a little hopeful that she really knew who the Avatar was. The next Avatar. Who? Korra asked, while wondering why they wanted to tell her specifically. You, Korra. You are the Avatar. Kana said, much to the girl's shock and stunned silence, along with the shock of everyone else, to learn that Korra is the Avatar. Even more so, when everyone actually began bowing or kneeling to her, aside from Naruto, who was just as surprised by this as Korra. Me. I'm the Avatar. No way, that's impossible, said Korra, not believing she of all people could be the Avatar. It is possible, Korra. You are the Avatar, with how you reacted to Aang's death, he was your past life. You were born the moment he passed away, when neither I, nor your parents, expected for them to have twins. It may be hard to believe, but you truly are the Avatar, Korra, said Kana, with Korra looking around at everyone, not knowing what to say to this. I'm the Avatar, Korra said, not sure how to feel about suddenly having such a responsibility put on her, along with realizing what this means. She would have to leave home, not only to make sure that the Fire Nation didn't come after everyone to get to her, but also to master the other three elements, something that's rather impossible, with no airbenders left to teach her. Before she then looked at her grandmother, when Kana put a hand on her shoulder. I know it's sudden, Korra, but I'm afraid that you don't have time to come to terms with it, just yet. But we now have another problem. We only began collecting enough supplies for Naruto to take with him, when he leaves the village. But with you now leaving as well, it'll take much longer than a week to gather enough supplies for you, Naruto, Katara, Sokka, and Naga. Kana said, knowing that Korra would want to bring her siblings and friend with her, along with knowing that Katara and Sokka would go with her, no matter what, to help their sister. But now, they didn't have the time to get enough supplies for all of them, especially if the Fire Nation was still on Naruto's tail, and were searching for him in the South Pole. Do you have any way to gather the necessary supplies, in a short amount of time? Naruto asked, knowing they definitely needed to get moving, with both him and Korra, who is the newly revealed avatar, here. They'll needed to leave as soon as possible. Even more so, if any nearby Fire Nation ships saw the light caused from Korra's reaction to Aang. And while he can help with his shadow clones, he doesn't know enough about the landscape and their hunting grounds, to use them effectively. Kana thought over his question, thinking of ways to get the supplies they'll need quickly, before soon coming to a conclusion of how they could. Though it was an idea that Kana didn't like but knew they didn't have a choice at the moment. There is a Fire Nation ship that's trapped in the ice, from the time during the Southern Water Tribe raids. It should still have the supplies needed, since it's forbidden for anyone to go near it, due to the reminder that it left behind of what happened. But given the circumstances, I'm willing to make an exception, and let you go there to take any supplies that's still on board. As while it's been frozen for decades, there should still something you can take to help you on your journey. Kana said, with Naruto nodding, knowing that'll really help. Thank you, I'll go there and get what I can. Replied Naruto, before a reluctant Korra, Katara, and Sokka stepped forward. I'll go to, I know where it is and can take you there. Said Katara, not wanting to go near the ship, but wanted to do her part in helping Naruto and Korra. Since I'm part of the reason we need to leave so quickly, I'm coming to help get everything we'll need. Korra said, knowing that her being the avatar is the reason they had to leave sooner, and needed more supplies. I guess I'll go to, just to make sure none of you get into any trouble. Sokka said, the most reluctant to go to the ship, but didn't want his sisters going there alone. Naruto looked at three, not wanting to put them in danger, but saw they wouldn't be deterred. Alright, then let's get going. Replied Naruto, with the three nodding, before the four set out for the ship. Later. After arriving at the ship, with Naruto being surprised at how it was lifted into air by the ice, knowing that the waterbenders that did this, must have been really powerful. The four began walking towards it, the siblings being nervous and wary at going towards the ship, since they had avoided it their entire lives. So, you were a servant for the Fire Nation's royal family, right? You know anything we should expect, and be ready for, inside? Sokka asked, hoping to not go into things blindly or accidentally set off any traps. Only for Naruto to shake his head in response. No, I only know the basics of how the ships work and their layouts, nothing really important, since I was just a servant and not a soldier, much less a firebender. So I wouldn't know about anything important, like any remaining security systems and booby traps it may have. And with how long it's been here for, who knows how many changes, the modern ships could have to them. Naruto answered, knowing that the Fire Nation always worked on making new war machines and upgrading the older ones. Oh great. So we could end up setting off a trap and signal any Fire Nation ships that were here and have them come after us. Sokka groaned. Well, after the light show that Aang and I had just done, it wouldn't be a surprise if any nearby ships saw it and are already coming to investigate. stated Korra, doubting it'd really matter if they set off any traps that'd signal nearby ships, since she figured that they'd already be on their way, after that light show. Great. Damned if we do, damned if we don't. Sokka muttered sarcastically and dryly, knowing they're screwed either way. Oh, be quiet, Sokka. If everything goes all right, we'll be in and out of there quickly, with everything we'll need, said Katara, not wanting to think that they'll suddenly be captured, or attacked by firebenders. Be careful with that line of thinking, Sokka, Katara. Naruto warned, knowing from personal experience that it tends to jinx those that thinking that way, and result in the worst possible outcome. Besides, despite how old this model likely is, there should be enough similarities to the newer ones, that I can work with, added Naruto, knowing that there are some universal similarities between the older and newer war machines, that he can use to his advantage. With that, the four entered the ship and began searching the rooms for supplies, finding preserved food, blankets, and weapons. With Naruto pulling out some storage scrolls and sealing everything away they found, even stuff they didn't need, never knowing when it could come in handy. While the siblings looked on in shock as Naruto put the items on the scrolls before they vanished in puffs of smoke. What can't you do? Sokka asked, wondering what Naruto couldn't do, since he can walk on water, make clones of himself, and now make things disappear into tiny scrolls. I'm still trying to figure that out, myself, replied Naruto, knowing there was a lot of things he can do, that most people would consider impossible. By the time we're done training you, it'll be easier to make a list of things you can't do, than what you will be able to do. And you'll be able to kick anyone's ass, especially that bastard Ozai, said a female voice in Naruto's head. I wouldn't go that far, Kushina, since we don't want him to get overconfident. But she is right, Naruto. While bending is impressive, once your training is complete, only the most powerful and skilled benders will be a threat to you, a male voice said. I still say that all the runt needs is my power, and simply crush these fools, said another voice, only deeper and darker. Naruto didn't react to the voices, knowing who they were, with them being reason he even knew about chakra and ninjutsu, and being able to do what he can. They were his parents Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, along with his tenant, the Kyuubi no Yoko, Kurama. Their words made Naruto mentally chuckle though, especially his mother's, who on more than one occasion voiced her dislike of the current Fire Lord, given his disregard for his own children and family. Something that Minato, and surprisingly Kurama, agreed with the redhead on. After searching the remaining rooms, the four were about to head back to the village, after seeing they had gotten everything they needed. Unfortunately, their luck soon came to an end, when Sokka stepped on a tripwire, causing metal bars to drop down on the door, trapping them inside. What's that you said about booby traps, Sokka? Korra said, while looking at her brother in annoyance. It was an accident, said Sokka, before the four saw the gears and engines of the ship suddenly turn on, with their eyes widening, when they looked out the windows and saw a flare shoot up into the sky. Oh, said Naruto, knowing they definitely had to get out of here now. Looking around, Naruto saw a hole in the roof, before creating two shadow clones. Hang on, Naruto said, before picking up Korra, while his clones grabbed Katara and Sokka, with all three of them jumping up through the hole and out the ship. Fire Nation ship. Unknown to the group, Zuko had spotted the flare and looked through a telescope to see who triggered it. Spotting Naruto and his clones jumping out of the ship, with Korra, Katara, and Sokka in tow. It's him. But I don't see the avatar, Zuko said, under the belief the Avatar is still the last airbender and an old man, while handing the telescope to his sister. Azula looked through it and saw Naruto, with feeling her anger rising at seeing him again after all these years. Along with angry at seeing him, with two other girls. The Fire Princess unconsciously calling on her flames, melting the telescope in her hands, unbothered by the heat. "I'll get another one," muttered Zuko, this not being the first time Azula's melted something, whenever Naruto's brought up, having learned to keep multiple spares of everything, just in case. Azula didn't react to her brother's words, merely looking to where Naruto was, with a scowl on her face. While Iroh, Mai, and Ty Lee looked at her in worry, wondering what she'll do when she sees Naruto face to face again. With Naruto, Korra, Katara, and Sokka**. Meanwhile, Naruto and the others soon made it back to the village, all of whom had seen the flare as well, and were worried about what happened. "What happened?" Kanna asked, worried when she saw the flare shoot into the sky. Sokka triggered a booby trap, with any and all ships in the area, likely on their way here, answered Korra. "It was an accident," Sokka said, with Kanna sighing in annoyance, having feared this would happen, but knew there was nothing to do about it. "No matter, whatever supplies you managed to bring, put them with the others that we managed to get, while you were out. Together, it should be enough," Kanna said, the four nodding, before Naruto went to unseal the supplies, away from everyone, knowing it'd be better if as few people knew about his abilities as possible, for now, at least until they were away from the village. "Okay, while it's good and all to have the supplies we need to leave, how exactly am I going to find someone who could teach me airbending, since all the air nomads are gone? And if some of them were somehow able to escape the purge, then any descendants they've had that inherited the ability to airbend, are likely deep in hiding," Korra said, knowing if she's really the Avatar, then she doesn't have anyone to teach her airbending, and any airbenders that might possibly still be alive, likely won't come out of wherever they're hiding, out of fear of being hunted down and killed. "We could try searching the air temples for any tomes or scrolls that survived the Fire Nation's attacks. While not as good as an actual teacher, it's better than nothing. And we have the means of getting to them," said Katara, as they all looked at Appa, knowing he can take them to the air temples. Before anyone could say anything else, they looked up with wide eyes, when they saw black snow falling and mixing with the white snow. Only to realize it wasn't snow, it was soot. Cursing as they realized a ship was nearby. "Korra, Katara, take Appa and hide with him," Naruto said, since the Fire Nation doesn't know that the Southern Water Tribe still has waterbenders, or that Korra is the Avatar, and knew they couldn't be found. With it only looking worse if they saw a sky bison here as well. "We can't just run and hide. If I'm the Avatar, then I have to fight," Korra argued, refusing to hide, while the Fire Nation shows up. "Korra's right, we can help," said Katara. "No, you can't, you can move some water, but neither of you can actually fight. The only thing you'll do, is put targets on both your backs, now go," Sokka said, agreeing with Naruto and not wanting his sisters to get hurt. "You must go with them, Naruto. Hopefully, we will be able to buy you enough time to get away on Appa," Kanna added, knowing Naruto was targeted as well, and couldn't be found. Naruto wanted to argue against this but couldn't think of anything to say. Knowing if he was found here, the entire village would be burned to the ground to draw him out. So, Naruto went with the girls and Appa, getting some distance from the village, but still close enough to see it. Once the three were safely away, Sokka went and prepared for the ship's arrival, donning gloves, boots, and bindings, while applying war paint as well. After finishing, Sokka went and stood on the wall around the village, looking out over the foggy horizon, with his club at the ready. The villagers all tense for when the ship would arrive, gasping when they heard a loud cracking sound. Suddenly, the ground began quaking, along with a rumbling sound being heard in the distance. Kanna gasped, as she stood up with a horrified expression on her face, knowing what the sound meant. A watchtower on the wall began shaking under the pressure of the trembling, before completely collapses. "Oh man," Sokka said, disappointed at his watchtower falling down, before his eyes widened in shock and horror, upon seeing the shadow of the bow of the Fire Nation ship. "Oh man," muttered Sokka, at seeing the sheer size of the ship, firsthand. The ship began carving through the ice, towards the village, with everyone rushing into their tents to get away, while Sokka stood his ground, before sliding back as the ship approached. The wall being destroyed and sent sliding back to the ground, before quickly rushing backwards, when the bow began lowering into a gangplank. From the ship, Zuko, now wearing the standard Fire Nation soldier armor and helmet, and Azula, wearing her own uniform, minus the helmet, walked down with two guards accompanying them. Sokka let out a battle cry and charged the two, only for Zuko to kick his club out of his hand, before kicking Sokka off the plank, and into the snow on the side. The two continuing their trek without pause, soon reaching the ground and looked over the frightened villagers, for any sign of Naruto. "Where is he?" Zuko demanded, knowing they knew who he's talking about. "We don't know who you're talking about," said Kanna, while stepping forward. Blonde hair, whiskers like a fox, about a year or two younger than that fool, back there. "We know you're hiding him, where is he?" said Azula. "We've never seen anyone with that description, before. Please, we're just a simple village, trying to survive. We want no part in the conflict between you with whoever you are searching for," Kanna said, hoping to resolve this peacefully and get him to leave. "Do you think we're stupid? We saw him with that idiot and those two girls, when we investigated that flare. Now, where is he?" Azula exclaimed, neither of the siblings believing her, since they saw Naruto with Sokka, Korra, and Katara, before the siblings launched arcs of orange and blue fire over the villagers. "We know you're hiding him," Zuko said, getting annoyed that they refused to give Naruto up. Meanwhile, Sokka had managed to pull himself out of the snow and grabbed his club, before rushing towards Zuko, letting out another battle cry. As Zuko turned and ducked under his wild swings, grabbing Sokka and throwing him over his shoulder, where the boy landed in the snow. Sokka then quickly gets out of the way of a blast that Zuko sent at him, before throwing his boomerang at the Fire Prince. With Zuko barely being able to dodge the projectile and glared at Sokka for nearly hitting him. "Show no fear," a boy said, while throwing a spear to Sokka, who caught it and rushed towards Zuko again. Only for Zuko to break the weapon with his forearms, before grabbing the remains and poking Sokka with the blunt end, 3 times in the head, knocking him down, before snapping the broken spear in half. Though suddenly, Sokka's boomerang sparkled in the distance as it returned from where it was thrown and slammed into the back of Zuko's head with a loud clang and pushing the firebender forward. With Zuko grunting in surprise at the sudden hit and growled as his helmet was knocked over his eyes, along with hearing Azula snickering. "I guess you actually had a good idea wearing a helmet for once, Zuzu. Congrats on having a rare bout of brilliance," Azula taunted, never willing to pass up the chance to taunt her brother. Growling, Zuko was officially angered, before throwing his helmet off and created 2 fire daggers in his hands. But before he could attack Sokka, a thrown kunai stabbed into the snow between them, with Zuko and Azula looking at the weapon in surprise and recognition. "That's enough, Zuko," Naruto said, while jumping down in front of Sokka, and looking at his former friends. The air becoming tense as 3 looked at each other, while the villagers looked shocked at his return. "What are you doing? Get out of here!" shouted Sokka, not believing Naruto would come back. "No, I'm not going to let anyone get hurt, while I just hide. It's my fault they're here to begin with. They want me, and I'm right here," Naruto said. "I'm the one who triggered the booby trap. They probably only came here because of me messing up," retorted Sokka, with Naruto shaking his head, before looking back at the banished siblings. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" stated Naruto, with Zuko and Azula nodding tensely. "Yes, what's it been? 3, maybe 4 years since you ran away," Azula said, while resisting the urge to just blast him with fire. "I didn't have a choice, Azula, you know why I had to leave," said Naruto, while glancing at Zuko's scar, having not seen that on him the last time they saw each other, with Zuko scowling, knowing what he was looking at. "A lesson in respect, my father called it. With suffering as my teacher," said Zuko, making Naruto clench his fists, his anger and hatred for Ozai going up, upon learning that he'd willingly scar his own son. Naruto then looked at the villagers, before back to the siblings, knowing what he had to do. "If I go with the both of you, will you leave this village and its people alone?" Naruto asked, while raising his hands in surrender, knowing that between him and Korra, she was more important to the village and the world as a whole. After a moment of hesitation, Zuko and Azula exchanged a look, before nodding in acceptance, as 2 soldiers moved and grabbed Naruto before heading back to the ship. "Head a course for the Fire Nation. We're going home," said Zuko, annoyed that they didn't find the Avatar, but knew his father would want Naruto more, due to his powers, and would hopefully welcome both him and Azula back home. Once the ship had left, Katara, Korra, and Naga returned to the village, having been left with a shadow clone, which dispelled once the ship was gone. Shocking them, when they learned that Naruto tricked them and gave himself up to the Fire Nation, all to make sure no one got hurt. With Sokka now feeling like a complete jerk, given how he'd been suspicious and hostile towards Naruto the entire time he's been here. Now he shows up and surrenders himself, because of Sokka's own screw-up. "We have to go after that ship, Sokka. Naruto saved our tribe, now we have to save him," Katara said, refusing to let Naruto be captured. "Katara, Sokka started, only to be cut off. "No. We're going to save him and you gotta deal with it. And if we don't help him, no one will. I know you don't like Naruto, but we owe him and," said Korra, believing Sokka was going to refuse to help save Naruto. "Guys. Are you gonna talk all day, or are you coming with me?" Sokka said, making Katara and Korra pause, as they saw their brother motioning to a canoe in the water. "Sokka." Katara and Korra said, happy that their brother was going to help them. "Get in, we're going to save your boyfriend," said Sokka. "He's not the twins said, before stopping to look at each other. "What do you 3 think you're doing?" questioned Kanna, looking at her grandchildren, who tensed at her appearance, only to relax when she smiled. "I think you'd have better luck if you brought them with you," Kanna said, motioning to Appa and Naga, the sky bison growling, while Naga barked and jumped onto the saddle on Appa's back. Appa, Naga. Korra said, happily as she and Katara rushed over to the sky bison and polar bear dog. You just love taking me out of my comfort zone, don't you? Muttered Sokka, while following after them, as three climbed on top of Appa with Korra grabbing the reins. Though the three then realized, they didn't know how to make Appa fly, something Sokka still doubted he could do. Go. Fly. Soar. Sokka said, blandly. Please, Appa. We need your help. Naruto needs your help. Katara said, pleading for the bison to fly. Up. Ascend. Elevate. Continued Sokka. Sokka doesn't believe you can fly, but we do, Appa. Said Katara, petting the bison, while Korra tried thinking of something to make Appa fly. Come on, come on. What can I do to make him fly? I don't even know, I've never ridden a sky bison before, I'm not even his owner, wait, Korra thought, suddenly realizing what she had to say. Appa, yip yip. Said Korra, smiling when Appa shot up into the sky, with Katara smiling as well, while Sokka screamed in shock. He's flying. He's flying. Katara, Korra, Sokka said in amazement, before seeing the smug smirks that his sisters were giving him. I mean, so what, he's flying, big deal. Sokka said, while crossing his arms beredly, but looked on in amazement at what was happening. The twins shared a smirk, before Korra directed Appa towards the Fire Nation ship. With Naruto. Meanwhile, on the ship Naruto, now in cuffs, was having a rather solemn and tense reunion with his friends and Iroh. Hey Foxy, it's nice to see you again. Ty Lee said as she smiled sadly at Naruto, which he returned. You too, Ty Lee, and you as well, my Iroh. Said Naruto. Yeah, I see you still have that hero complex. Mai stated neutrally, while hiding her own sadness, as she saw that Naruto was still the same, willing to sacrifice himself to save people he barely knew. Despite the circumstances, it is good to see again, Naruto. Though I wish it was under better conditions. Iroh said, with Naruto waving it off. It's fine, and I'm glad to see you all again too, all of you. Said Naruto, while looking at Azula and Zuko. Enjoy it while you can, since you won't be seeing a lot of people, soon enough. Zuko said neutrally, and a little coldly. And right now, all you'll be seeing is the inside of a cell. Azula said, before grabbing Naruto and escorting him to his cell. Once there, Azula pushed Naruto inside and walked in after him, glaring at the whiskered blonde. You left. No goodbye, no note, no anything, you just left like it all meant nothing. Azula hissed, no longer able to suppress her anger and sadness at seeing him again, with Naruto grunting when she pushed him against the wall. It did mean something, Azula. When my abilities were discovered by those guards, I thought by leaving, I wouldn't just be saving myself, but that I'd be able to keep you safe, as well. Said Naruto, with Azula laughing mockingly, while rubbing her hand over the center of her chest armor. Well, a lot of good that did. Because here I am, banished from my own home. And the only way I can go back, is my bringing you back as well. When all I want is to watch you burn. Growled Azula, while creating a ball of fire next to Naruto's head, the boy not reacting to it, knowing Azula had every right to be angry with him, but also seeing that as much as she wants to hate him and attack him, she doesn't. Then do it. I won't fight you. You know I'd never hurt you. Said Naruto, knowing he'd never intentionally hurt his friends if he could avoid it, especially Azula. Azula glared at him, wanting nothing more than to do just that, but even with all the ideas she's had of ways to make him suffer for leaving. Now that she finally has him at her mercy, she can't do any of them, instead doing the exact opposite. The fire suddenly went out, before Azula grabbed Naruto by his collar and slammed her lips against him, with Naruto returning the surprise kiss. And you know I'd never do that, no matter how much you annoy me. Azula said, once they pulled apart, knowing despite what's happened, she wouldn't be able to actually bring herself to hurt Naruto, like that, or even kill him. You can come with me. All of you, Zuko, Mai, Ty Lee, and Iroh. You don't have to be more pawns for Ozai to toss aside, when you're no longer useful to him. Said Naruto, offering him a way out of the clutches of Zuko's and Azula's tyrannical psychopath of a father, with her looking away at this. Despite having been raised under the Fire Nation propaganda and how the war started with good intentions from Fire Lord Sozin, of sharing the peace and prosperity with the rest of the nations, it soon became twisted and warped by his fear of the Avatar, with future generations of firebenders believing they were superior to the other nations and benders. Given how they were winning the 100-Year War, along with how fire could burn anything, whether it was air, plants, earth, metal, even water, fire could burn it all to ash. But while Azula was torn on this, given her time with Naruto, along with the time she spent with her friends and uncle since her banishment, along with how the reason he returned after abandoning the siege of Ba Sing Se, was due to the death of his son, and their cousin, Lu Ten. Azula still couldn't become a traitor to her home, and instead pointed two fingers at Naruto's chains, shooting a blast of lightning at them. Naruto looking surprised at this, before looking at Azula, who had a neutral expression on her face. I'm only doing this, because of the history we share together. The next time we meet, don't expect any more mercy, as I will capture you and have my banishment lifted. Azula said, giving Naruto one chance to escape, but afterwards, she will hunt him down and capture him. Thank you, said Naruto, smiling solemnly, before immediately punching Azula in the stomach, hard enough to knock her out, knowing that this'll make it look like he escaped, rather than her letting him go, so Azula won't be branded a traitor, on top of being in exile. Though before he left, Naruto took a moment to write notes to Azula and the others, before hiding them in her armor, and proceeded to make his escape. Making his way to the top of the deck, jumping over a group of stunned soldiers, and knocking them out with a spin kick. Naruto was about to jump over the edge of the ship, only to have to roll out of the way of a blast of fire. Looking, Naruto saw it was Zuko, who launched the fire blast, before Ty Lee flipped towards him, forcing Naruto to backpedal. As she tried striking him in his pressure points, to incapacitate him. Sorry, I'm really sorry, Ty Lee said, with each strike Naruto dodged, before the girl yelped in surprise when Naruto kicked her feet out from under her, before in turn striking several pressure points in her legs, incapacitating her. Sorry, replied Naruto, feeling bad at using the lessons Ty Lee gave him on chi blocking against her. Naruto then had to pull out a kunai, deflecting numerous throwing knives from Mai, along with jumping out of the way of another blast of fire from Zuko. Knowing he had to get out of there soon, as he refused to hurt his friends any more than he already has, Naruto then saw a large shadow overhead. Looking, Naruto saw it was Appa, with Korra, Katara, Naga, and Sokka on his back. Seeing his chance to escape, Naruto threw down several smoke bombs, covering the entire deck in a thick shroud of smoke. with Naruto jumping straight into the air, before running up one of the glaciers around the ship, leaping high into the air and onto the saddle. Because, of course, you can also run up walls. Sokka deadpanned, not even surprised anymore at Naruto's growing list of abilities, with Naruto smirking, since he knew he could do a lot more than he's already shown them. "Sue, where exactly are we going?" Naruto asked, since they didn't really have time to plan out a set destination. "We're going to the air temples, to search them for anything that might be able to teach me airbending. Or at least, try to find any air nomad descendants that can airbend." Korra answered, knowing she can learn earthbending, firebending, and more waterbending at any time, but she needed to find something, or someone, that can teach her airbending, otherwise it won't matter if she's mastered the other 3 elements. "Good, maybe the Earth Kingdom has some scrolls and tomes on airbending, in the black market, as well," said Naruto as he nodded in agreement at the current game plan, before sitting back, while looking out over the horizon, wondering what adventures are in store for them. Later Fire Nation ship. Meanwhile, back on the ship Zuko, Azula, Ty Lee, Mai, and Iroh had just finished reading the notes. Naruto left them. "So, what will you two do, now that you've found Naruto?" Iroh asked, while looking at his niece and nephew. "We're going to hunt him down and capture him. And this time, he won't escape," stated Azula. "Azula, are you sure? You know what'll happen if Naruto's brought back to the Fire Nation?" Ty Lee said in worry for their friend, given how Ozai didn't even try to make it a secret of what he plans to do to Naruto, once he's captured and brought back. "I am aware, Ty Lee. But perhaps, I can convince father to let me take Naruto as my husband, so our children and descendants can have the same power as him," Azula said, believing her father would prefer for only his own blood to possess the same power as Naruto, and allow her to take him as her husband. "Knowing Ozai, I doubt that very much," Iroh thought, doubting his brother would even entertain the idea of that happening, knowing he already didn't like Naruto for thwarting his attempts to mold Azula into his image. And he doubted that Ozai would even trust Azula to be near Naruto at all, anymore. Given the whole reason she was banished, was because Azula chose to keep Naruto's abilities a secret, having been the only one he told him about. But Iroh didn't say this out loud, knowing that would be the last thing Azula would want to hear. Iroh can only hope his nephew and niece don't lose themselves, in their desire to gain their father's approval and honor. "I had thought that seeing Naruto again, would strengthen my anger and resolve to capture him. But in the end, it only did the opposite. Leaving me even more torn on this, to the point where if I do manage to capture him, I'm actually thinking of making a compromise with my father. Instead of wanting to leave Naruto to the wolves and let him suffer whatever fate that my father already has planned for him," Azula thought, as she couldn't help but chuckle bitterly at this twist of fate. That despite how angry she was at Naruto, and how she tried to hate him, Azula just couldn't let go of the fact that she loves him. And to add insult to injury, now, Naruto will be traveling with 2 Southern Water Tribe girls, and who knows what will happen while they were together. It was as if the spirits were constantly mocking her. To give Azula someone that pulled her from the shadow that her father tried to cast on her. Someone she ultimately developed feelings for and could give her heart to. And yet, life seems to keep throwing obstacles at her to make it impossible.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like this video if you want some more what if video. Comment 3 hearts for more what if.